The campaign that I was actually really excited for, the Leon Helena campaign. When I heard about Chris's campaign, I was just like, oh, this is probably gonna be really boring. And then, Jake's sounded interesting because of his whole, like, Wesker past, but I actually wanted to see, like, what the fuck Leon's been doing, like, since, like, 4. And, well, yes, I did see those CG movies, and one was horrible, and I've heard that the other one's actually not bad. Those kind of suck. Like, they really don't do much with the series. It's kind of like an anime movie where, yeah, things happen, but it doesn't affect anything. So I was interested to see, like, what happened with this character, and clearly he was going to have ties to Ada, and I really want to know, like, what the deal with her character is in this, whether she really was an antagonist, or if there was, like, some kind of, like, double agent thing going on, or... His was actually probably my favorite. It felt longer than the other campaigns, though. And, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me, like, yeah, feel free to throw that in the comments if you felt it was longer. Because, honestly, and this is just my crazy nerd theory, it felt like they wanted to make a game about Leon, but there just wasn't enough substance. And so they, like, threw in, like, the Ada campaign. And you're like, oh, well, shit, nothing else is gonna... This isn't long enough still. And then they're just like, fuck it, we'll just make it revolve around these other characters that are popping in, too. But Leon's definitely had a more horror aspect to it, because a lot of the times you're in these confined spaces, and you're fighting, like, kind of like actual, like, zombies. Like, you will come across some more of the super zombies, but there's a lot more puzzles, and there were a lot of times when, like, ammo got short. Like, I don't know how many times I yelled at my roommate to give me some damn ammo when there would be drops. I don't know how the hell he kept so much up. I guess he was just meleeing more than me. Like I said, I like the melee thing, but it felt like really gimmicky at times. But, like, Leon's story basically starts off where the president has been affected by the new virus, and as such, so has the entire city that he's been in. And Helena, who is this character who just kind of, like, appears, like, the cutscene opens, Leon's about to fire on the president, and, like, Helena is kind of just, like, poking in the background, about to get eaten by the president zombie, and she's just like, oh, hey, BT dubs, I totally have this, like, lead for where we can go. So you go to this cathedral to, like, figure out this lead. It turns out that, like, oh, Simmons is behind it, and, like, again, this is kind of why I liked the order I played it in, because, like, in this campaign, Simmons is evil. Like, I mean, the fact that he has just infected the president, infected a good chunk of a city, which then later just gets firebombed, and then, you get to see Simmons, and you hear some of his motives, you're like, oh, this man's evil, and it kind of just flat out lays it like, okay, this person's a bad guy, whatever. And I'm kind of glad that I played them in a different order, because it had a little bit better build-up for the character, what little character there is. It's pretty straightforward. Like, you're kind of just, like, hopping around, like, all over in this one, because you're in the catacombs, and then you're in China because you're on a plane to stop Simmons, and then you're finding Ada. Ada pops in a lot in this one, which is, awesome to always see her swing in and, do something to help them out. It actually was kind of interesting because, we got a better affirmation of, like, their relationship, and Leon and Ada's, that is. Because it always felt like there was something there, but, like, nothing's ever, like, really confirmed. And the part of the problem is, like, neither one character, like, has the call to just talk to the other, to be like, hey, totally wants on you. And even Helena at one point is just like, okay, I'm gonna over-dramatize this, but it's just like, for the love of God, will you just go after her? She totally just wants to be with you, and you just don't get it. Like, oh, Leon, that blonde runs deep, doesn't it? What was great about this campaign, what I liked about more, was some of the boss fights you got. There is one point where you come across Jake and Sherry, and you get to fight the big grappler arm dude, which is fun. But the most interesting character fight is Simmons, because he actually gets infected with the C virus thanks to Ada, and his fight tends to span across quite a few parts of the city. There's the first fight where he can turn into this giant, like, tiger thing, and then by far like the coolest transformation in these current series, I would say. Lately, I've been feeling like the series is having a lot of lackluster monsters. This time, this was a good one. They actually turned him into some kind of weird G-Virus Tyrannosaurus. Like, freaking awesome. Awesome. Like, let's bring some Dino Crisis into this. Like, that was awesome. Like, that was, like, I don't know if it's just sheer awesome that, wow, a T-Rex showed up, or just, like, on the creative level of just, like, there you go, there's, like, kind of thinking outside the book. And then we kind of get, like, in the end, he turns into this giant fly monster, and you can kind of tell by my voice that didn't really care about this. And this fight was kind of interesting, but at the same time, it was a giant fly. Like, I bet for some people that's terrifying, but it just wasn't that cool. And then he turns back into the tiger, and you gotta kill the tiger thing again. And then he gets skewered on a giant obelisk of the umbrella symbol. And what was really kind of cool about Leon's was just more of just that it actually had, like, horror moments. Like, not crap would jump at you, just, like, nice suspense, like when you're walking through the cemetery and your ammo's low and you actually have to kill stuff by hand. But, like... But it more helped because it tied into the final campaign, and by far one of the ones that I did not like the most, and that would be Ada's campaign. Now, Ada's campaign got really frustrating fast for many reasons. Mostly, I feel this was such a huge test in gamer patience. There were so many times when it was just, if you tried to do this campaign, like, free run, first time, like, I'm gonna do this and not die, you could not do it, because there are just so many screw you gaming choice moments that there's no way you could do this. Most of them were fixed camera angles. God damn it, Capcom, I thought you learned, but there were just so many moments, like, prime example, there's a part where you're on a boat, and the boat is sinking, and you have to climb these ladders to get the hell out, but you'll be going third person, and then, you know, down a hallway, and then all of a sudden it will switch to this fixed camera floating angle, and your controls, like, don't correspond well to that change, so you're quickly going like, and then the water comes up and fucking kills you. Another great, like, programming / choice moment was there's a part where you fall into a trap pit, and there is, you know, you're going that third person thing, and then you fall into the pit, and the camera shifts to where now you're on the opposite side, the blades are coming at you, and Ada's facing the screen. And it's just like, oh, well, now my controls are backwards, and I actually, like, crawled into it, like, ass first, like, a couple, you know, like, on the first time. I'm like, oh, come on, son of a bitch, really? Oh, and then, you know, there was, like, the big reveal.
So it's not really Ada, it's just some scientist who worked for Neo Umbrella who goes by the name of Carla. And Simmons decides to inject her with the C-Virus to turn her into a copy of Ada.
Because he had a fat cock for her. I seriously don't know the reasoning for this. Again, if it was explained, please tell me in the comments. Like, this made no damn sense to me. Like, why he did this. And you get a boss fight, which actually was pretty cool. But here comes another one of my gripes from that thing is, she injects herself, the clone Ada, injects herself with this, like, super G-Virus. And as a result, becomes this, like, goo that, like, merges with this battleship that they're on. As a result, she can, like, bleed into the walls and, you know, like, become, like, hands and grab Ada and becomes, like, giant faces and stuff like that. Part of the problem is her death is kind of, like, unclear. Like, there's a part where, yeah, you blow up this, like, giant face of her, but there's still, like, goo all over the ship. And it's just like, well, is she dead or alive? And Ada's just like, meh, I'll just leave this to these other people to take care of. And it's just like, okay, but in the meantime, Ada, you have just left a giant battleship in the middle of the ocean that has this, like, constantly mutating monster in it. How do we know that it didn't just, like, take over the ship? And that's another big problem I have with this series, is there's just, like, so many, like, weird loose ends that just never get tied up. Like, this was one of them. Another big one that happened was, and I didn't explain it in Leon's campaign. There's a missile that goes off in China that turns everyone there into zombies. And they're like, well, shit, we need that C virus antibody from Jake. And they're like, yay, we got the virus. And then it's just, but they never like really explain like if it, and this may just be me from my lack of understanding science, but so does that just mean that like everyone who is still a zombie or isn't a zombie is just immune now? Because that means there's still zombies in China, you know, like wreaking havoc and killing shit and all that good hoopla. And so that really doesn't sound. Or is it something where if you inject a zombie, they become human again? Well, a lot of them were kind of dismembered and crap, so I really don't know if I'd want to come back, you know, from having my arms severed. Didn't really make much sense. My final gripe about the Ada campaign is there's actually this really kind of like cool and creepy moment where needs to destroy the evidence of Clara and that she stole her identity and things like that. So she's in this like lab. There's like all these like screens that are like playing like file footage of like Ada doing experiment or clone Ada doing experiments, that is. And you know, there's like this doorway that opens up past the panels, and it's like she's like, it's my greatest experiment ever. And you know, it starts to like crack open this cocoon, and inside the cocoon is, you know, you just start to see like these hands of like a person come out. She's just like, nope, and just kind of like lays waste to it with a machine gun, sets fire to the lab, and that's basically the end of the campaign. And I'm just like, ah, what a weak payoff, especially because her boss fight wasn't really that good. She basically helped Leon in his while fighting Simmons. You basically got to replay parts of that one, so it wasn't really that satisfying. Definitely like a loss, like because of like all the things that happened, whether it be the weird gaming choices that were made in like controls or just like the FU gamer moments that happened. It was such just kind of a letdown, especially because like at least, and again, this could just be me, but like so little is known about Ada that it would have been nice to know like something about her. Like we got to know like, yeah, she has a bit more feelings for her, and then when she does kill the cocoon, it's the only moment I've ever seen her like get mad about something, which was cool, but it was really anticlimactic, didn't really let into her character.